Starting from the 8 lines from the bottom. Should we say that the din of Shmuel that says that somebody who lent against the lent money against the mashkin, and the mashkin wasn't worth the halva, the schum of the halva, the number of the halva. Let's say he gave him a mashkin, the handle of a sickle, and the halva was $1,000. The sickle's worth $200. We say if he loses the sickle, he loses the halva. Says let us say that the din of Shmuel is telling the machlokes of Tanoim of the following baraisa. If somebody lends his friend against the mashkin, and the person who was the mashkin, Yeshava, the Malva has to swear that the mashkin was lost, and then he can collect his whole chayv. Those are the words of Rabbi Lezer. The Levi could say back to the Malva, Klum, Hiblisani ala mashkin. The Levi could say to the Malva that I only lent you against the mashkin of the meyasecha. You lost the mashkin, you lose your money. Aval Malva alav zuz b'shtar v'hinich mashkin meyadei. But if a Malva lent 1,000 zuz with a star, now we're talking about with a star. Star has a different din, and the Levi left the mashkin to be hakel of a mashkin of meyasecha. Everybody will agree that if he loses the mashkin, if the Malva loses the mashkin, he loses his money. But if it was Tam Malva as Chaver al mashkin, or he loses the mashkin, so then you have Rabbi Lezer says he swears and he collects his money. The Malva swears that he lost the mashkin and he collects the money. And Rabbi Akiva says no, he can't collect anything. But by Ishtar, everybody will agree. How is the case of the machlokes talking about? If it's talking about that the mashkin was worth the schum of the chayv itself, my time the Rabbi Lezer. What's the reason that Rabbi Lezer says if he lost the mashkin that he still can collect the whole chayv? Doesn't make sense. He lost the mashkin. He lost whatever the chayv was worth. So he shouldn't have to pay back. Meaning the Levi shouldn't have to pay back anything. Elalav only we have to say, but the Leish Havashir. It's talking about a case where the mashkin was worth less than the schum of money that was lent to. But the Shmuel come up again. They're arguing in Shmuel. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov argues with Shmuel, and he says the mashkin, even when it's worth less than the chayv, is not. He says it's only for raya. It's only the mashkin was given only for proof, so he shouldn't be able to deny the haval. And since it's not being used as security to be able to collect the money from it, it's only as a proof that he lent the money. So he doesn't take any special achrais. He's only considered as a shemechinan. And if he lost it not by being negligent, so he's not chayv for the mashkin at all, and the Levi has to pay him back the whole halva. Rabbi Akiva says, like Shmuel, that even though it's worth less than the chayv, but the Malva, by him taking the mashkin, he took it as a security against the chayv, and if he loses the mashkin, he lost the whole chayv. Says Gemara Loi. No, that's not the. You don't have to. That's not the pirush of the machlokes. With the Loi Shavi, it's talking about by that case of the Brais is talking about that the mashkin was not worth like the share of the mois al hava. Kuli amalas leit Shmuel. Side of Lezer, side of Yakiva don't hold the din of Shmuel. That the Malva accepted that if he loses the mashkin, he loses the whole chayv. Rather, according to Rabbi Lezer, the Malva doesn't lose the chayv at all. If he lost the mashkin, and according to Rabbi Akiva, he only loses, if he lost the mashkin, he only loses the worth of the mashkin itself, but the rest of the chayv, the later has to pay. The hach with the Shavous shir zuzi, and over here, the Brais is talking about that the mashkin was the equivalent in value of the halva. Ubed Rabbi Yitzchak coming again. They argue in the limit of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak had said, from where do we know that the Balchev, when he takes the mashkin, he's koina the mashkin? Shadama, it says, to the chiyuv of the malva, that he has to return the mashkin to the ani, to the poor person in a time of need, and the Torah says, al chati tzedakah. The Torah will consider it as if you gave tzedakah. Now, if the malva wasn't koina the mashkin, why would the Torah consider returning it to the ani as if he's giving him tzedakah? It's not even his. From here, that Abal Chayv is kohen the mashkin, and that's machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Lezer. in the din of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Akiva holds that the malva has a kinyan in the mashkin, like the words of Rabbi Yitzchak. And like his drasha, when he returns it to the ani, it's considered as tzedakah. And therefore, if he loses the mashkin, he lost his money of, meaning if the mashkin loses, if the malva loses the mashkin, he lost that money. And Rabbi Lezer holds that's according to Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Lezer holds that the malva doesn't have a kin in the mashkin, and therefore he only has a din like shemech chinam. So even he took it as a mashkin gomor, he doesn't lose his money if he was only considered as a shemech chinam, and if he lost it not being negligent or it was stolen from him, and he wasn't negligent, then he could collect the whole chayv. Let us say that the din of Rabbi Yitzchak was, it depends on the machlekes of Tanaim, of Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Akiva. Is it possible to say that Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Akiva are arguing in the din of Rabbi Yitzchak? And the reason of Rabbi Akiva is because, and the reason why Rabbi Akiva holds that he's kind of the mashkin, meaning that he's chayiv, because he holds like Rabbi Yitzchak. Ema say, Rabbi Yitzchak, what did Rabbi Yitzchak say that the Malchev is kind of the mashkin? Only shemishkenai, only when the malva later on brought the levit to Bezdin, shalei b'shas hava. It wasn't the time at the time of hava. It was after when the time of payment came, and he took the levit to court, and the levit didn't pay. So Bezdin took away a mashkin for the malva. So over there, the pasuk. The pasuk from which Rabbi Yitzchak learned that he's kind of the mashkin, that's where he was talking about shalei b'shas hava. But in the case of mishkei b'shas hava, but in the time, if there was a mashkin that was taken at the time of Avam, he amad, that Rabbi Yitzchak say he's kind of the mashkin, you can't compare the two. It's two different zmanim. So you can say so that the din of Rabbi Yitzchak was totally the machlekes of Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Akiva were talking about a mashkin that was taken b'shas hava. And Rabbi Yitzchak is talking about shalei b'shas hava. Ella, rather, if to explain the machlekes of Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Akiva, that's not. It wasn't totally in the din of Rabbi Yitzchak. Ella mashkin shalei b'shas hava. Rather, we're talking about a case that the mashkin happened shalei b'shas hava. And Rabbi Yitzchak, everybody agrees to Rabbi Yitzchak that it's a kinyan, you're kind of the mashkin, and it's shloi b'shas hava. Here they're arguing the mishkan b'shas hava say that the mashkin was taken at the time of the hava. Ubedim shema aveda, and they're arguing in the union of shema aveda. When he's holding the mashkin, is it considered as a shema aveda kamiflegi? If he has a din, meaning if he has a din like a shema chinam or shema sacha. The hitman that we learned Shema Aveda Rabba Ima Kishem Echinam. Shema Aveda Rabba says he has a din like Hashem Echinam, that he's only chayv of Shia, since he's not taking any schaf for his shmira, so he has a din like Hashem Echinam. Rabbi Yosef Amar Kishem Esachadami. Rabbi Yosef says he's like Hashem Esachad because he's gaining, because he's doing a mitzvah. That's why was a mitzvah. One who's a mitzvah is part from another mitzvah. So and so, if an ani were to come for tzedakah in the time that he's doing the mitzvah of the halva, so he's potter, so he's gaining. So according to Rabbi Yosef, he's considered this hana that patters him from giving ani makes him into Hashem Asacha. But Rabbi says, since it's such an unusual case that at that time an ani will come at the time when he's doing the halva, so you want to consider that as if his payment for being Shema Daveda. So we say no, that's loy matzi. So this is the machlekes. Rabbi Akiva holds like Rabbi Yosef, that even Amal Alamashkin, he's doing a mitzvah, and in the time of the mitzvah, since in the time of the mitzvah he's parted from giving tzedakah to the ani, that hana makes him into Hashem Esacha. Rabbi Lezer says no, he doesn't. That hana doesn't make him into Hashem Esacha because it's a very unusual profit that he would make, that he wouldn't have to give any money because it's so unusual that it'll happen at the same time. Rather, he has a din like Hashem Achinam, and therefore all the malva has to do is swear and the label will have to pay, because, according to Rebbe Lezer. But according to Rabbi Akiva, he holds like Rabbi Yosef, that he is a Shem HaSacha, so therefore the label will be pater from paying if the mashkin was lost. In fact, if you want to live the Rabbi Yosef Tanoihi, should we say that Shitas Rabbi Yosef, that he says that he is it's considered as he's considered as a Shem HaSacha, is according to the Machlekes of Tanoim. Says Gemara Loi. By Hashem Aveda, everybody holds, side Rabbi Akiva, side Rabbi Lezer, hold like Rabbi Yosef, that he's a Shem HaSacha because of the Rebach, that he's gaining out of this mitzvah, that he doesn't have to give out any money. He doesn't have to give out any tzedakah. Here in the Braisa is B'malva shetzarech lemashkin. It's talking about a case where the Malva needed the mashkin for himself. That's where they're arguing. Rabbi Akiva Sava holds that even though he's using the mashkin mitzvah kavod, he's still doing a mitzvah, and therefore he's considered as a Shem HaSacha. Umar Rabbi Lezer Sava mitzvah kavod. He's not doing a mitzvah because he's having a personal hana, and since he's not doing a mitzvah, so therefore he has a din only like a shena chinam. According to this hezbah, the din of Rabbi Yosef was not learned like a machlekes of Tanaim. Only it's the machlekes of Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Akiva both hold like Rabbi Yosef Hashem Aveda has a din like a Shem HaSacha, but if he's using the mashkin, that's where the machlekes is. Does it remove the mitzvah and the mitzvah of the etzem alvad that makes him part from another mitzvah? So he makes him Shem HaSacha. So according to Rabbi Lezer, it's not a mitzvah because he's having a personal honor when he's using it, and according to Rabbi Akiva, it's still a mitzvah because when he's using it, he's also, that's part of the mitzvah, that while he's using it, he's deducting from the halva that he gave him, and he's making it less. So he's making it better for the malva. I'm sorry, the malva is making it better for the lever that he's not going to owe so much money. So should we say the din of Shmuel is totally in the machlekes of the Tanaim in the following Braisa. Somebody who lends his friend against the mashkin, and it's a shmita, and the year of shmita comes in, even though the mashkin is only worth half of the chayiv, the hava doesn't become nishmat, meaning that he can still collect the hava, because the Torah says lo yigas by shmita, you cannot collect. But the din of lo yigas is not applicable when there's a mashkin. Even though now the mashkin is only worth half the chayiv, we say it's considered as a mashkin that will stop shmita from taking away the chayiv. Those are the words of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. If the mashkin itself was corresponding or equal to the chayiv, then it's not mishamet. But if it's only worth half mishamet, then it's going to be mishamet. If it's not worth the whole chayiv, then shmita will take away the whole chayiv. What does it mean? The comment on the comment that the shmita won't take it away. Elam, if you're going to say the kavana is the half of ava kinegdo, meaning the part of the mashkin that's worth half of ava, that shmita doesn't take away, but the second half that is more than the mashkin, shmita does take away. Mikal Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who argues, Savi kinegdo not mishamet, will hold that even the half that corresponds to half of the chayiv also gets nishmat. Says Gemara, if the whole thing gets nishmat, what did he need the whole mashkin for? It doesn't help him a cinch. If he takes the mashkin, shmita takes away the whole chayiv. Rather, what is the pshat by Ram Gamil when he said, the whole chayiv, even though the mashkin is only worth half the chayiv, the whole chayiv is saved, and the malvis can collect the whole chayiv, even though he has a mashkin worth half of the chayiv. But the Shmuel come again, they're arguing in the din of Shmuel. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds like Shmuel, that even though the mashkin is not the equivalent of the whole chayiv, the malva collects, is makabel connected kulei. The malva gets first to this whole, meaning he can collect the whole chayiv, and the mashkin help that the shmita shouldn't be able to take away the chayiv. And it also, if he loses the mashkin, If the Malva loses the mashkin, then the leg is pat for the whole chayv. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi say it's only when we say it's not that Shemitah is not Shemitah is Meshamit. Meshamit only connected only meaning if it's ain't a Meshamit, it's not going to be Meshamit only half, but the other whatever's left over money more than what the mashkin is worth, that Shemitah takes away. That's how we're going to learn the machlekes, and that's what they're arguing in Shmuel. And Shimon Gamil holds like Shmuel that even a mashkin that's less than the chayv corresponds the whole chayv. That's why if he loses the mashkin, he loses the whole chayv, and that's why by Shemitah, even though the mashkin is worth less than the chayv, Shemitah won't be meshamet any part of the chayv. Says Gemara, the Eina Meshamet that Rabbi Gamliel said is only connected. Only the amount of money that corresponds to the value of the mashkin. That's the only part of the chayv that's not Meshamet. But the rest is. And what is Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi arguing? Tanakama, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds Sava connected. Meaning connected the worth of the mashkin. That doesn't get nishmat. The Shemitah doesn't take away. Even though it's not worth the erech of the chayv, nevertheless, the mashkin corresponds the half of the chayv that he can still collect. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Sava connected not mishamed, and Rabbi Yehuda holds if my half the chayv shekeneged is worth the mashkin, that also that half that's worth against the mashkin is also Shemitah takes away. Since the mashkin is not worth the chayv, we don't look at it as a mashkin. It's not being used as for collateral to be able to collect from. So what purpose do you hold on to the mashkin? What do you grab a mashkin for? Only that the lady shouldn't be able to deny that there was halva, but not as a security to be able to collect from it. And therefore, the whole halva by Shvius, even corresponding to the value of the mashkin, that part of the halva corresponding to the value of the mashkin, also Shemitah takes away, and a Malva cannot collect anything. Hadon Allah Shvuas Hadayonim. We shall return to you, Perek Shvuas Hadayonim. We're starting a new Perek called Nishbayim. Zod the Mishnah called Nishbayim. All those cases that the one is Mechuyev Min HaTorah, Nishbayim Eloim L'Shalman. They swear and they don't pay. It's a shvur in order to pater them from paying. Shvuas made them mixas, paters him from paying. Shvuas that Eid Echad is testifying against him. It's called Shvuas Eid Echad. Paters him if he swears against Eid Echad. Shvuas shel shemer sheton shapikon shuf. That's like it was lost. He says, and even that he wasn't responsible. So the Torah wasn't mechayiv the tevei to swear and collect from the nitva. Rather, the nitva swears and he doesn't have to pay back. And now you have shvuas that you make a shvua and you collect. Hasochir, anigzal, anechbal. And hasochir is a worker, anigzal is the one who's robbed, and anechbal, and somebody was hurt. We're going to say soon the cases, shekenegdei, meaning that the shvua that the Torah was mechayiv midaisa. For instance, if he was made of a mixas, choshed al shvua is talking about that he was choshed, and since he cannot swear, he's not able to swear the shvua that was placed on him in order to pat himself. So the chacham were masakin that the tevei is mechayiv to swear in order to collect. The chamnei al pinkasei. And so to a storekeeper with his credit book, in which is written to whom he sold on credit. In all these cases, the Teveya swears to collect. And now he's going to go through the cases. What is the case of a worker? So he says that they said that the Koil swears and he collects his money. Amalai. If the worker said to the employer, to the balabaya, give me my payment for the work of the week. Huema, the balabaya says, I gave it to you. Allah, and the worker says, I never took it from you. The worker swears that he never received his paycheck. and he collects from the balabais. Rabbi Yehuda, the sacher doesn't, the worker cannot swear and collect acha tehei sham mixas hoida till there'll be a ma'id mixas here. Rabbi Yehuda holds that Acham Mesakin that the teveya collects and with a shvua is only when there was a ma'id mixas. Okay, so what's the case? Amalei, the sacher says to the balabais, "Tenli schari chamishim dinar. Give me my paycheck of 50 dinar that I have in your hands." Balabai says, "His kabalta dinar zav. You already got 25 of it, 25 dinar. I only owe you 5." In that case, since the Balabai became a chayv in the shvua of meidavim mixas, the Chachamim reversed the shvua from the employer to the worker, and he swears and he collects. Nigzal Ketzah. What is the case of Nigzal? Hayu, there were 8 Me'id that testified on the Malvash, Nichnas Lebeisi, that he ran into the Leva's house, Lamashkanai, to take a mashkin, Shalei Rishus, without the Rishus of the Leva. Who, the Leva says, Kelai Natalta, you took my Kalim as a mashkin, Shalei Kedin, and you're a Gazlan. Who, the Malvash says, Lei Natalti, I never took anything. Who Nizma Menaito? The Leva swears and he collects. Rabbi Yehuda says, the only time that the labor will swear that the mashkin was stolen from him is only if there was a meidu mixas of the malva. Ketzah, what's the case? The labor said to the malva, Shnei kelim natalta, you stole 2 kelim from my house as a mashkin. The malva says, Lei natalta eli yachad. I only took 1 keli. So since the malva was already a meidu mixas, that he took 1 keli, so then the labor gets to swear and collects back his kelim. Nechbal, Ketzah, what's the case of somebody wounded him? How you mean? They testified on a person Nichnas Tachas Yodai Shalem Yatzachal that he went to this guy complete and he came out bruised up. And the one that was bruised up, he says to the one that bruised him, Chabalta me, you bruised me. I never bruised you. He swears. The one that got bruised up, and the night he collects his the money of the damage. Rabbi Yehuda says, only until there's a mixed of the one that bruised him, then the nechva will swear. Ketzah, what's the case? The one that was bruised says, you bruised me in 2 places. And the one that gave the bruise is saying, no, I only bruised you at one place. So since he was a meidu mixas, so then he should swear, but we put the shvua on the one that got hurt, and he collects the main niskei. 4th din, if the kenegda is chashal shvua, ketzah, what's the case where the kenegda is chashal shvua? Says the Gemara, Achas Shvuas Eidos. Between the Nitva, who was a Choshal Ashvua because he swore a Shvuas Eidos L'Sheker, the Baldin demanded that he should come test Eidos to help him in a case, and he swore he doesn't know testimony to help him, and then we found out that he was a liar. He swore falsely that he doesn't know testimony. The Achas, and whether he became a Choshud through a Shvuas Pikadin, somebody demanded from him the Pikadin that he gave him, and he denied that he doesn't have the Pikadin, and he swore falsely. So that's another case where this person is a Choshud. And even if he became a Choshud because of a Shvuas Shav, that he swore a Shvuas Shav, only is something that's not negayah to Bein Adam L'Chaberei. He said something stam which is only Lashamayim. He becomes a chashud. If one of those that were mechuyev shvua that Isa was mesach the that gambled, played cards, umal beribis and lent with interest, umafriche yoinim, and they would make bets on having races with pigeons. And those that sold Peis and Shvius, that the person who is officially supposed to be make a shvua, since he has one of these flaws, either because he swore falsely by Shvus Eidis or Shvus Abikadei, or he said a Shvus Shav, or he's a gambler, or he lends beribis umafriche, so he became a chashud, or he sold pays b'shvius. So then the opposite party, meaning the nitva, swears, and the teveya swears and he collects. Ho yishneim chashudim. What's if they were both sides, teveya and nitva, were chashud? The shur goes back to the person who's required to swear, and if he can, since he can't swear, he pays. Divrei Rabbi Yosi. Those are the words of Rabbi Yosi. Meir says the baladinin, they split the money. Each one takes half.